case. Kim Bong-hong, deceased Kim Bong-hong, who was a resident of Bukchon village. He fled to mountains during the April 3rd incident, and he hid himself in the deep mountain, but it was very cold, so he couldn't survive there, so he went down in the next spring, but he was let me see. What do you say? Because he was young and also village leader, he was in the temporary military court. He was death sentence. He got a death sentence. He was kind of treated as a communist guerrilla. So he was kept in the kind of prison camp. And after that, together with the other 200, he was taken secretly to the airport and he was killed there, shot. But the particular secret burial places of 200 had been kept secret so long, over 60 years. I think militaries get rid of all the documents, so nobody really knew exactly. So there were several oral testimonies about the particular locations of the burial, secret burial, and this two testimony monies come from the persons who joined this burial around that time. But it was 60 years ago, so his memory was rather vague. So they tried several places, the excavation, and finally they found 2 places. And anyway, this Kim Bong-hong, the excavation was done in 2008, but in 2011, he found his family through the DNA test. So finally, Kim Bong-hong's son, Kim Seok-bo, he was 76 at that time. His brothers, 2 brothers and 1 sister, were killed also at that time. When the Bukchon Massacre, and they were buried in the Nobun-sungi. It's a small children's graveyard. And I'm going to tell you this story. This is the Kim Bong-hong and his surviving son in Bukchon village. I already told you that this is the Kim Bong-hong fled to the mountain, and he surrendered and went down the mountain, but he was accused of getting involved in mountain guerrilla and sentenced to death in August at the court-martial and executed at the Cheju airport and buried secretly together with several hundreds. And Kim Seok-bo wrote the chronicle of his father's wrongful death and disappearance in 1949, and repatriation of his father's remains to family and also public authority located at the Sasam Peace Park, 2011. He said, after 60 years, more than 60 years, finally the son got the father's bodies. Kim Sok-po was my key informant. This man, who was the village leader, and also he was the kind of stone inscription man. So he passed away just several months ago. The family, he established this family and clan graveyard in 2007, even before the DNA test identification with his father's remains in 2011. He was kind of, he made this grave, Jimyo, for his father. He was kind of waiting for the return of his father's dead bodies. So, Jimyo grave, and Kim's dead father's honor as a Confucian classic teacher was recovered in 2006. So anyway, I'm going to move this repatriation to home. Kim Sok-po's moral dilemma occurred after even keeping his father's ashes in the public ossuary. His deceased father's dispersion by 3 places: public ossuary, together with other victims whose bones were excavated at Cheju Airport. And also there is a shrine, victims' tablets of Cheju Sasan Peace Park, tablet with only name, and also family cemetery, gravestone inscription, Jimyo. But in the cemetery there is a grave but without bodies. The bodies and so on should be always come together, but he prepared even 10 years, more than 14 years before the return of the body. He was waiting and waiting for the return of the disappeared father. He had his father, and also he had 3 siblings who were killed during the 1949 massacre. And when he established this family and clan graveyard, he wanted to cremate these 3 siblings buried in the public place in the village, but he couldn't move them because the village leaders wanted to keep them the children's grave as a sign of the massacre. Okay, for the purpose of remaining history as the visible evidence of specific damage such as the massacre. So it's a kind of the question, the problem of cultural heritage. Whenever Kim Sok-po would walk or pass by that kind of public memorial place of the Bukchon village, where his 3 siblings' small graves are located, he would always a little bit avoid it. And he would tell me, my younger brother and sister stay over there even now, after 65 years of death. This is the scene of how they did this kind of, and how to treat these body remains of the victims is the big question to the bereaved families, and also this association for the bereaved families. And so I question about moral agency of exhumed bones. There are three process of reconstitution. The remains of the dead are displayed in boxes containing bones. They make a skeleton of a person. You see the person, full person. Here is the skeleton, the head, and the 2 arms, and the chest, and 2 legs, and the foot. So they put them in a separate box. So I asked the question, do they belong to a single person, or are they reassembled from different parts of the bones of several persons in order to make a full-scale body composition of a single person? So I asked to the excavation team, and they said it's one person, one single person, but they don't know who this person is, because it's before the DNA test. It takes several years to have a DNA test. All the bereaved families are supposed to provide their DNA information, and this association of the bereaved families would keep the record of this DNA information. In that way, they could identify with this DNA of the dead but excavated bodies. So there are 3 interrelated processes of reconstitution that emerge out of the exhumation of the mass graves. First, bodies assembled from disparate bones, and social relations from missing and absent to found and present. So just the bodies, materials, become social persons. So who's someone's father, someone's family member. So regain the name and address. That's how we connect with people and community, and also memories, from suppression and secrecy to release and openness. So their memories, these memories of the victims, become public and open to the public. The presence of bones in the process of exhumation has a kind of affective charge for the people that is produced out of these processes of reconstitution, drawing them into confronting death itself, corpse, and confronting the person who died, the identity of the person, and confronting the memory of how unjustly and mercilessly the person died, the massacre. So body is so important. Excavation of body parts, even a finger or even a teeth, so important. In the very recent Korean tragic event of Sewol, even a piece of teeth was discovered, and it could recover its social relations, with name and So how does this exhumation make a present the absence of death? And Ruth Biharo, one of my teachers at the University of Michigan, who wrote the book Vulnerable Observer, you will like it. It's a very good book. She also did a very similar kind of excavation and this church, the function of church during the Spanish Francoian dictatorship. So she said anthropology break your heart to solicit sympathy and collusion. There is 3 phases of rite of reburial. First phase is purification of bones, and second phase is animation and revival purified bones to reconstruct them, complete skeleton. You saw it in the photo. And also third phase is endowing grave with desirable geometric features. This kind of 3 stages of rite of reburial is very same in Taiwan and also Korea too. I got this whole inspirations of interpreting this case of excavation and the reburial from this anthropological report by the Taiwan scholar. I forgot his name. It's in my paper. Here, this one. My presentation is based on this. It's published in January 1st this year, placing the dead in the post-memory of Cheju Massacre in Korea. So there is a shift in the model of social relations with the dead, from ghost to ancestor. By rearticulating bonds, spirits, social relations, the process of reconstitution involves a shift in the model of social relations with the dead, from ghosts to ancestors. What is ghost? Who are ghosts? They are stuck at the point of death and return to reside among the living, who died on impure or bad deaths, who do not receive ancestral rights. And the ghost ancestors, they want to be treated as ancestors because ancestors are given their place among the other ancestors whose bones are purified by the sun, who receive rights. So they are the non-placed being, and now they are placed in the family and social relations. So Edward Cage, geologist, who wrote a very good book about this place world or sense of place, this kind of concept. So another shift of model of social relations is the shift in the official recognition from missing or forgotten communist insurgent to illegitimately murdered state subject and citizen, endowed with a new status as the official victim, 희생자, of the state violence. To get this official status as a victim, 희생자, took more than 50 years, now becoming 70 years. And I'm going to show you this very interesting different shape of memorial kind of monument. It's called the 3 mass graves and 1 ancestor tablet. So a huge stone with the title, it's a kind of 반혼비, gravestone for the repatriation. I like this concept. There are, in the old times in Jeju, many fishermen would got shipwrecked and their bodies would never return. So along the seashore, every village, fishing village has this several of this kind of 반혼비, gravestone for repatriation, because their bodies are not found. So only tombstones standing there, and Jeju 4.3 victims are also treated as dead souls whose bodies never return, properly. So reburial, right? This process of reconstitution become a site of conflict at multiple scales of social structure. These two shifts of model of social relations create a ripple effect at different scales of social relations. Three scales of social relations: family and kin lineage, and local village, and island and districts, and the state. So there are four scales of social relations, or three, or four, I think. The higher, the wider order scale is making ever more claim on the Cheju dead, as they have moved from ghost to ancestor and from insurgent to citizen. We see a powerful and painful shift in models and kinds of social relations, intersecting with a political shift in the scale of social relations. Kim Seok-po's case of reburial of dead father speaks to this intersection and its political implications. I already told you about this. It's interesting. So affective bonds with the dead, these collective death bonds are interlaced in the membership through death. Anyway, it's a title of a novel. So when one victim's family have ancestral right at home, the fellow dead victims who were killed at the same time in the village would invite it. So it's almost kind of, so the one story, the short story is Yuryong Chimmoke. You can read it, Chinese character. I like the novel because it deals with the ancestral ritual together, not just for one family member, family ancestor, but together with other fellow villagers who killed. So this is the Bukchon village. I'm going to move to Bukchon village. Nobunsungi, the massacre site called Nobunsungi, and this is the place where now current memorial hall is located. The red dots is the massacre site, the elementary schoolyard. Okay, usually these public buildings and their locations are used for prison camp, or they were used like this elementary school ground were used for massacre. And this yellow circle is the current Nobunsungi Memorial Hall is located. Okay, Bukchon Nobunsungi, you see this is a memorial hall. It's kind of relocating the dead in a state memorial park. They become a kind of public park. It's inside altar for the 443 victims. And there's a children's grave, Egimdong, unmarked or fugitive grave, the site of struggle for recognition of meaning of mass death. Compare before and after public memorialization. The violent death was controlled under the visible signs of the national memory of the state. Where the left-hand side slide shows the children's grave graves marked only by pebbles without official recognition, known only to family. But on the right-hand side picture shows there's an official plaque detailing the names of the deceased children and the site, the title of children's grave. And I attended at this real, actual ancestral right for these three children. Double meaning of ancestral veneration for child victims. The dead, even of improper status, are brought home again. They are called child victims who were given with a proper tablet and worshipped in ancestral right in spite of their non-ancestral kinship status. Actually, children are not worshipped in the proper ancestral ritual, but in this case, they are treated as a kind of proper family members and also kinship member. So bowing to child victims as a kinship member who could become elderly uncles or aunts of these middle-aged nephews. Can you believe that? These are the children, and these are grown-up middle-aged nephews bow to these children ancestor. Anyway, they are called as an uncle or aunt. They never call them a child. It's very important. These child victims become a grown-up kind of adults and also ancestors. They would never, if you die as a child, you are never treated as an ancestor, and you do not even enter the chosen, the other world. They are, according to shamanic cosmology, they are supposed to be returned to their original birthplace. And so, because they are not the full humans, but in this case, very interesting. And personal ancestral right inside the public society. Some ashes are taken away recently, and actually, when I visited in 2017, this Kim Bong-ho, the fathers of Kim Seok-bo, ashes were taken away, and he was buried. His ashes were buried together with his dead wife, under the tombstone in the family cemetery. And this picture, I saw their family members were identified after several years, after almost 10 years later. So they were so happy to have a first proper ancestor right in front of ashes, So when I look at them, their face, they are so happy. They could now have this ancestral ceremony in proper way. So conclusion, ethics in the work of Postmemory. The politics of memory and placemaking is incomplete and ongoing question. The official title of Egi Mudong, child grave as the April 3rd victim, that has remained as a visible object of memorial monument of the massacre, proves that ascendancy of the public value of death over the significance of personal familiar meaning that calls for action and reparation. So Kim Seok-bo got a stroke after his moving his father's ashes back to his family cemetery. Maybe he got so happy he did not. Maybe he lost his mind after his completion